What's up, guys? Happy Sunday. Happy winter solstice. It is officially Yule. It's officially winter. It's officially winter. For those of you guys that are not familiar with what the winter solstice is, why it matters, etc., tonight is technically the longest night of the year. Usually this is around December 21st, 22nd, etc. And I don't know about where you guys are, but we are about to have a heat wave, and it will be almost 80 degrees on Christmas, which is ridiculous. Ridiculous. But anyway, today's Sunday sermon is going to be a little rough. I know. Some of you guys are like, but I get the messages. It's rough every week. But today, when I started working on what this sermon was going to be about, I wanted to tie it into the winter solstice. I wanted to tie it into Yule. I wanted to tie it into a lot of those things that you guys may not think about. Why this day is significant in the year. Everybody celebrates the summer solstice, right? Like, it's summer, it's great, we're all outside. But I feel like not enough people celebrate the winter solstice. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about a few things today. And I also wanted to tie this in to a little bit of how I grew up, because the 21st is my dad's birthday. And I've realized that the way that I grew up was a lot different. And I'm not mad about it. Like, I had a great childhood. But I grew up with a different mindset in looking at things. As in, if I get knocked down, if something happens and the thing that I'm doing doesn't go the way that I wanted it to go, or it wasn't successful or whatever, I wasn't taught just to sit around and mope about it. I wasn't taught just to sit around and, have a pity party crying my Cheerios about it. I was taught to get my ass right the hell back up and do something else. Do it bigger, better, badder. And I know that we like to think that everybody is that way, but they're not. They're not. And that's the difference between my dad and my mom. My dad is that way. My dad is that way. If something goes wrong, if something goes haywire, if something doesn't go the way you want it to go, cool. Shift and pivot. Move. Do the thing. My mom, however, was a Cancer, and I love her. But my mom was that person of, well, it failed, so I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to do anything like that again. We joke that I'm the most like my dad out of all of his daughters. He has 3 of us. And I'm adopted. so there's that. But now that I've kind of said all of that and given you some background, and I'm not going to get super mushy, okay, because, but we're going to talk about the solstice. Today's sermon, get your big kid pants on. I'm going to give you a second. Get your big kid pants on. Today's sermon is called Be the Fire That Moves the Mountain. And I think my Oklahoman came out. I apologize. I think it's really funny that last week the sermon had the title Fire in it as well. Tomorrow is Capricorn season, but it is still Sagittarius season right now. The last day of it. So we're going to talk about it. So before we get started, I want you to take a big deep breath, okay? But I want it to be a slow one, not fast. I don't want it to be that. I want it to be a deep internal reset. A deep one. Today is the quietest point of the year. The winter solstice. The longest night. That sacred pause in every tradition. And I want you to think about that. We're going to talk about some different traditions today for reasons, because I want them to sink into you that it's not just a pagan thing or a Norse thing or a Celtic thing or, a Native American thing, or it's an everything thing. It's an everything thing. In the Northern Hemisphere, the way we celebrate winter on the solstice, that is the longest night of our year. This is the quietest point of the year. This is the moment where the entire world holds still. And I want you to recognize that energy tonight. The entire world pauses for just a minute. For a long minute. Not because there isn't anything happening, but because something important is about to begin. The sun will reach the lowest point in the sky, up here where I'm at, in the northern hemisphere. But starting tomorrow, the light begins to return. Our days have been getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And this night is the longest night of the year. But starting tomorrow, the days get longer and longer and longer. The light returns. Now, it's not all at once like our instant ramen noodle society would like it to be. It's not, tomorrow is summer. It's not that. It's not dramatically, but faithfully. It always returns. It always returns. And that matters. The solstice reminds us of a truth that we usually forget. And the faster the world goes and the faster our lives go, the more we forget it. Nothing is reborn by accident. Not a damn thing. Nothing spontaneously is reborn. Nothing changes without intention. Do you think that plants grow leaves without the intent of getting more sunlight for more food so they can grow more leaves? Do you think that animals have babies just for no reason? Do you think that the sun rises and sets, the earth spins for no reason? Do you think you get up every morning for no reason? Nothing changes without intention. Nothing moves forward without courage. And I want you to let that sink in. All three of those things, not a damn thing is reborn without an accident or by accident. You know what I'm saying? Not a damn thing is reborn by accident. Like that sentence. Nothing changes without intention. And nothing moves forward without courage. Even the sun has to choose to rise again. Even the earth has to choose to rotate. And I want you to let that sink in because you're like, oh, it's a planet, it's a big rock. How many of y'all follow the solar weather? And you see the massive holes that rotate around the sun. At any moment, that big gaseous ball could go, you know what? I'm done. Peace. And the sun has to choose to still keep spinning. I want you to hear this next thing I say really deeply. The solstice isn't a celebration of comfort. It's not a celebration of fear. It's not a celebration of the darkness. It's a celebration of return. Of choosing to move again after the darkness, after the exhaustion, after the uncertainty. And that choice, that first step that you take in moving forward is so sacred. It is so sacred. And I want you to think about when you have fallen down before, when you have hit bottom, lower than rock bottom, whatever. When you fell down as a kid and you scraped your leg, did you stay on the ground? I mean, the answer is obviously no, or you wouldn't be doing what you're doing right now in this moment. No, you got up. But that first moment of getting up, there's fear in that. There's courage in that. There's uncertainty in that. That was a sacred moment. That was a sacred step. And when you have a point in your life where you have fallen down, that first choice, that first step forward, after you have fallen down is so sacred, isn't it? Every one of you can vividly remember a single moment in your life when you chose to get back up. What's really interesting is when I was getting ready for this sermon, I was like, you know what, let me look at what Celtic tree we're going into, because for those of you guys that don't know, in Druidic practices, Celtic lore, etc., they don't use an animal or a zodiac. They have trees. And when I saw what tree we're coming into, we're going to talk about it, I kind of giggled a little bit. I was like, that is fitting. That is fitting. It's fitting for this sermon. It's fitting for how the world is today. And then I was yesterday looking at the different Chinese zodiacs because, you know, I had a grandbaby born a couple weeks ago. So I'm like, oh, she's this and blah, you know, I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, how that fits in with this. And I thought, you know what? It's interesting that this is the year of the snake. Next year is the year of the horse. I love me some horses. It's one of my totem animals. So I started thinking about how interesting that was with the way that the world is right now and the way that we are as human beings right now, the way I am internally right now. And I am sure that you guys all feel this energy too. It's not just me. We're crossing this threshold of light and shadow. We're crossing this really deep energetic boundary. We're leaving behind that year of the snake and we're stepping into the year of the horse. And that transition means so much more than people realize. You go from dragon to snake, right? And that kind of logically in your brain, you're like, okay, you know, like a snake kind of looks like a baby dragon and, you know, the rebirth and blah, blah, blah. But the snake is ancient wisdom. The snake is patience. The snake is this quiet knowing, right? Every time you see a snake, whether you're afraid of them or not, what do snakes represent biblically? What do they represent in indigenous tribes? What do they represent in different pagan practices, in Egyptian practices, and South American practices? What do they represent? They represent wisdom. They represent rebirth. They represent growth, change, shifting. But a snake doesn't rush, does it? Y'all ever seen a snake run like a cheetah? You ever seen a snake move like a cheetah? I know there are some snakes that move really quickly, and some of you guys are wanting to argue with me immediately, whatever you feel you need to do to make yourself feel better today. But you ever seen a snake run 70 miles an hour? Move 70 miles an hour? The snake is patience. The snake lies in wait for its prey. It doesn't go hunt it. It's patience. It's calm. It's quiet. It's quiet knowing. It observes. It feels. It waits. This past year, 2025, has been a year of realization for everyone in the world. I don't care who you are, where you live, what side of the aisle. I don't care. It's been a year of realization for every single human being. This is a year where truths surfaced, sometimes very gently and calmly, and sometimes painfully. Like you kind of feel like that cartoon character that got the piano dropped on their head. It was a year where many of you knew things, but you didn't act on them. You saw what needed to change. You saw what no longer fit. You became aware of patterns, relationships, habits, stories, labels, all of these things that could not come with you going forward. But you tried anyway. Raise your hand if you're stubborn. You tried anyway. Raise your hand if you're stubborn. Every one of y'all probably better raise your hands. I don't want to see anybody not raise their hand. But a snake sheds its skin. And shedding is an internal act. We see the shed that comes off of the snake, but it's an internal act. All of those new scales have to be made and rise to the surface, so the old ones can be let go of. It's an internal act. And here is the biggest truth in all of that. You can be wise and still be stuck. You can know the things and still hesitate. You can be aware of all those patterns that don't need to come with you going forward and still sit in them. You can know the truth and still sit beside it. You can heal and still hesitate. And that's why this transition on today, on the winter solstice, is so powerful because we are leaving a year where we learned truth. And we're entering a year where that truth demands movement. I'm going to say that again because this is a very powerful statement, and not just because, listen to me. I want you to close your eyes and I want you to hear the words, and I want you to think about what this means for you, because it means something different for every single one of us, myself included. We are leaving a year where we learned truth about ourselves, about the world, about our family, about our friends, about our spot in the universe. And we are entering a year where that truth demands movement. Demands it. Let that land a minute. The horse does not wait for certainty. Y'all ever watched horses run? If you haven't, that's your homework for this sermon, is to go and just watch horses run. And know you can find that anywhere online. A horse doesn't wait for certainty. A horse doesn't go, should I go run over there? Should I go run down that hill or jump that fence? A horse doesn't wait for permission. The horse moves. The horse is movement. Again, I'm going to ask you, have you ever watched a horse run? It doesn't matter what size a horse is, what shape a horse is, how much weight a horse has or doesn't have. You can see all of the muscles in their legs move. You can see it in their neck. You can see it in their back. They are movement in animal form. The horse takes every single thing that the snake has learned and carries it forward at an intensive speed. But it's not a reckless energy. It's embodied wisdom. This is the universe telling you, and I know you've been feeling it, that you've reflected long enough. You've processed long enough. You've waited long enough. You've overthought long enough. You've made lists long enough. Now act. Act. The motion is the medicine. You've got the diagnosis, and now you need the medicine, and the motion is the medicine. This next coming year is not going to reward stagnation. It's not going to reward you sitting on your butt trying to reach the end of Netflix. It's not going to reward you playing pity party every morning when you get up because something didn't work out. It's not going to reward you pining over that person that left you 10 years ago. It's not going to reward all of those things that you've been sitting on being stagnant. It will reward courage. It will reward the people that say, you know what, I don't have the answers, but I'm going to move anyway. I don't have a path forward, but I'm going to go down over here. I'm going to go down this path anyway. It will reward the people that say, I don't have all the answers, but I'm moving anyway. Because clarity comes after movement, not before it. How do you know what's over that hill over there if you don't go over the hill? How do you know what's on the other side of that river if you don't go over on the other side of that river? Clarity comes after movement, not before. And a lot of us, I'm not going to say some of you, a lot of us have been standing at the edge of your next part in life, of the next path. Of you. You've been standing at the edge of it, just waiting for the fear to go away. Because if the fear would just go away, then you could take the step, right? The fear ain't going away, bitch. The fear ain't going away. It won't. Fear is not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're standing at a threshold. It's a sign that what lies before you isn't comfortable because it's unknown. It's a choice. Story time. When I was a kid, we used to go up in the mountains all the time because I grew up outside of Denver. Anytime my dad would see a cave in the hill, we'd find a way to get to that cave, and up the hill we'd go charging. Not because my dad knew exactly what was in that cave, not because my dad knew that it was safe to take my sister and I in that cave, but because it was unknown. It was unknown. We went all over the mountains, all over the Rockies, because it was unknown to us. We went places and saw things where other people were turning around miles back. To the point it's like, I'm glad we have extra gas and food just in case, you know? Like, there were no cell phones. There were no beepers. There were no GPS trackers. We just went. We just went. Not because we knew what was over there. Not because we knew what was at the top of that trail or in that cave. We just went. I can't tell you how many times as a kid I was scared shitless of something we were just about to do. Go into a dark ass cave with no flashlights. Or my dad had the only flashlight. Or go over this cliff thing, hill up on the mountain where we don't know what's on the other side. Go up a road on a mountain that's barely a car and a half wide, and this side is straight down and this side is straight up, and watch a car coming at you. I can't tell you how many times as a kid I was scared shitless. But the vast majority of the time, when you got to the other side, it was amazing. When you can look out over part of the earth and see the curve of the earth because you're at the top of a mountain. You're 14,000 feet up and you can see the curve. When you come out over the top of a hill and there's this glorious valley and a ghost town that no one has been in probably decades or 40 or 50 years. When you push a little further down the trail and you find the perfect campsite with this great little running water through it. When you get to see elk and moose right there. Fear isn't a stop sign. Fear is the sign that you're standing at a threshold. And if you're comfortable in your life right now, then you're stagnant. I said what I said. If you're comfortable in your life right now, you're stagnant. When I was writing this, remember how at the beginning of this sermon I said I was looking at the Celtic tree of the year? And when I looked at that with the snake and the horse, because today is the first part of the Celtic tradition of the year being born, the next year. So between now and February, we have all of these new years, right? So today, technically in the Celtic tradition, is the year that's born at the winter solstice, and it belongs to the birch tree this next year. And then we have New Year's coming up, here in a couple weeks. And then we have the Chinese New Year, where we go from the snake, from what we've learned, to the horse, which is movement. The birch is the first tree. The birch is the first tree in the Celtic zodiac, in the Celtic tradition. It is the first tree. It's the pioneer. It is the one that grows where the land has been burned or cleared or broken. Let that sink in. We're ending the year of the snake. We're shedding the skin and we're moving into movement. We're moving from the truth that we've learned to movement, unbridled movement, with the birch tree right there, the pioneer tree. The birch doesn't wait for ideal conditions. It grows because it has to. It grows because it must. And the birch is a very, very sacred truth. You don't need the full map. You only need the courage to take that first step forward. Ancient explorers didn't know what was beyond that horizon. They set out over mountains not knowing if there was another side. They set out across oceans without knowing if there was even land over there or if they were just going to fall right off the side of the earth. They had the courage to take that first step. The birch tree has a few questions that you ponder when this year comes up. And one of them is, are you ready to begin? Even if it's not perfect, even if it's an imperfect beginning, are you ready to start? Are you ready to go? What are you ready to release without resentment? Because let's face it, as humans, we release stuff, we let go of stuff, and then we resent that we had to release or let go of that stuff. What are you ready to release without resenting it? What truth are you finally ready to live without overthinking it? Are you ready to live being that thing, not just understand being that thing? The horse understands being a horse, but it still goes and lives. We understand being human sometimes. Sometimes. But how many really go and live that? And I want you guys to think about this next thing. Beginnings usually aren't loud. They're quiet decisions that are made in very, very honest moments. Boldness is required right now. For you, for me, for everybody listening, for the world. Boldness is required, but boldness has been misunderstood. Boldness is not recklessness. Boldness is not chaos. Boldness is alignment in motion, like the horse running through a field. The universe did not send you here to sit back and be small. God, Allah, Odin, Zeus, Ra, the Great Spirit. Nobody sent you here to sit there and be a bump on a log. No one sat you here to just be a teeny tiny turtle in its shell that never goes anywhere. It did not send you here to endlessly prepare. It didn't send you here to live some little half life. Teeny tiny life. It sent you here to be a catalyst. Not all of us change the world loudly. You can't. There's no way, because if everybody changed the world in a very loud, bold fashion, then we wouldn't know what a loud, bold fashion is, would we? We wouldn't know what quiet is. You can move a mountain with dynamite, or you can move it boulder by boulder, rock by rock, choice by choice. Every single decision that you make matters. Every brave choice matters. Every boundary you set matters. Every honest step you take matters. Change doesn't require perfection, my friends. It doesn't. I'm telling myself this just like I'm telling you this. So don't think that I'm sitting there griping at you, because I am griping at myself full on 100% today. Change doesn't require perfection. I have too many Capricorn placements and I feel like everything always has to be perfect all the time. It just requires participation. It doesn't require perfection. So today, on the winter solstice, the longest night of the year, with the sun rising again, tomorrow and the days get longer, what part of you are you going to let rise? What truth have you been sitting on instead of walking with? What bold decision keeps returning to you over and over and over, because it's meant to be taken? It's not meant to just sit there in the dark anymore. This is not the year to hide, and this is not the year to shrink, and this is not the year to wait for permission. This is a year of movement, and this is a year of embodied truth, and this is a year when knowing becomes doing. So as I close this out, I'm going to leave you guys with a little blessing. Are you ready? May you move bravely, even when your steps are small. May your fire burn steady, not destructive, but truthfully. May you remember that stagnation is not safety, and motion, when guided by integrity, is sacred. The light is returning, not because it was promised, because it chose to come back. And so will you. Happy solstice.